Hey everyone, it's time to start on our March Cuties table topper. Are you ready? Hey everyone, Cristin and we are going to start on the March table topper, the one with the gnomes. So cute. I'm even wearing my gnomes shirt today. So the first part that we are going to do is the deck of cards. All right, it is on page 22 of our booklet, and there's a couple things about this one. So it is exactly the same as what we just did last month for February. Exactly the same. All right. So it's the simple applique pieces. It's not even piecing, flipping, none of that. It's just applique. So I'm going to very likely cut and copy and paste and add in how we grouped the last one from last month. Save me a little bit of time. I think that I'll be able to do that. I'll look through it and make sure that that will work. But so that part would, just the part for Brilliance Essentials would be the same from last month. For the photos, I will still go through every step by step with the current colors and all of that. So don't worry. But for the Brilliance part, I think it'll be exactly the same. Like if you saved your previous file, I'm pretty sure that we could even just use that same file. So I will just add the video from our tutorial last month for that section. All right, so anyway, deck of cards. It is on page 22 of our booklet. And let's just go over the products that we need. So the first thing is our main fabric. It is white. Looks like it's just plain white. I would think there's little dots or something, but I'm not seeing them. So white. Looks like a white silky solid. Oh, there are dots. Just hard to see. Probably can't see them on the picture here either, but there are little tiny dots. So white with white dots on it, basically just big white squares. Okay, make sure and back these with Fusible stabilizer. So these we are going to start with at 7.5 by 7.5, and we want 4 of them, 4 pieces, because we've got 4 of the deck of cards. All right, so 4 pieces. I'm going to get, I think, at least 2 of them in one hoop is what we did last month, if I recall. But I'll go over all of that and I'll show you from previous. So 7.5 by 7.5, your white on white silky solid. It's not a silky solid. It's actually, because there is a design. There's very light little tiny dots on there. I can see it if I hold it sideways. Anyway, make sure to back this with Fusible stabilizer. It's a very large piece of fabric and you want to make sure not to get puckering. All right, so that's our main fabric. And then we have all of these little applique pieces, all right? And so it's easiest if you put them in order. I put them in order by group, but I'm going to separate them, you know, these 4 for 1, 2, 3, 4, that will make it easier. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I have them grouped. So the first one is the doodle fabric. I'm not sure if that's what it's really called, but that's what I've always called it. So this doodle fabric, it's the light green, kind of an apple green. And I did back all of the applique pieces with Fusible stabilizer for the deck of cards. So these are going to be 3.5 by 3.5, and you want 4 of them. 4 pieces of 3.5 by 3.5 for the green doodle fabric. That's fabric 1, or for card 1. And then for the deck of cards 2, it's going to be the green stripe fabric. And we're going to have to pay attention to how we lay this down, I'm assuming. We'll get there. When we get there, I'll point that out. 3.5 by 3.5, 4 pieces. And like I said, I did back mine with Fusible stabilizer, 4 pieces of the green stripe, 3.5 by 3.5. All right, that's for card 2. For card 3, it's the floral one. I grab that. Yep. Okay. The green with green floral on it. It is 4 pieces, 3.5 by 3.5, backed with Fusible stabilizer if you choose. Some people choose not to do it on the applique pieces. I definitely do. I find that when I'm trimming them, they won't fray and it will look crisper, nice, clean. I like how it looks when I use Fusible stabilizer on them. So 4 pieces, that's deck 3, or card 3, sorry. And then for card 4, it is the green silky solid. This is a sage green silky solid. My dog is whining if you can hear her. 4 pieces at 3.5 by 3.5 for card 4. All right, and then we have batting because we are going to quilt this. So our batting, we want 4 pieces of 6x6 batting, 4 pieces, 6x6, and then we are going to quilt this. Did I write it down? I didn't. Hold on. Sorry about that. Okay, so we are going to quilt this with Center Gnome. It's KDQ 150 Center Gnome. That's in our bundle for these the Cuties. So Center Gnome, and it's just one size. Since we have our quilting at, or our batting at 6x6, I'm sure that the quilting is 5x5, but it's already part of the bundle, and I will go over all of that when I bring you to Embroidering's Essentials. And like I said, I'm just going to copy and paste from last month. I think that will work fine, but for the hooping, I will go step by step, take pictures of each of the parts so that you know which fabrics and so on and so forth. Step by step, we'll get this all done together. Hey everyone, so I just did this video and the sound sounded like I was in a tunnel, so I made some changes and doing it again. So if you have the file from last month for your deck of cards, then you can just use that, but there is a minor change. And so I'm going to add in this tutorial last month's how to group everything together for the deck of cards. But for this little bit in the beginning here, I'm just going to show you, if you already have that file, how to quickly make the changes necessary. So I'm going to open up Embroidering's Essentials. I'm on my 8x12 hoop, which is perfect for this. And I am going to go to Merge Stitch File, and I'm going to bring in that older design. Now keep in mind I already did this just a few minutes ago, so there will be a couple, but all right, so I kept mine on my desktop in my Cuties folder, very convenient. From last month. So here is the deck of cards from last month. It's just called Deck of Cards times 2. And I'm going to double click on that, and you can see that we have the hearts design for the quilting. So I don't want that. I want the gnomes for March. So if you open up this plus sign here, I'm going to move this folder over here so you can see everything. There we go. All right, so you can see that we have the quilting. So here's the placement and tack down for the batting and the placement and tack down for the main fabric. And then we go right into the deck of cards. So I taught all of this last month for the February Cuties. So the very last step right here, 117, is that quilting design, and it's already all grouped together and everything, but we don't want that. We want the gnomes. So I'm going to go ahead and just click delete on this. I'm on 117. I'm clicking delete on my keyboard, and it makes that quilting go away. All right, so I'm going to go to Merge Stitch File, and I'm going to find the quilting bundle. Here's my quilting bundle. And I am going to find the one that is mine. Let's see, Centers and Triangles for March, right there, Centers and Triangles for March. So if I click on that, I can see right there is my 6x10 center gnome. So I'm going to double click on that. It goes to the center. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab it and move it up and see how I can just follow that placement and tack down of the main fabric right there. So see, this inner box right here is the placement and tack down of the batting, and this outer one is the placement and tack down of the main fabric, and we can easily line that right up over the existing design. So that was very easy. Now there's two things you could do. You could go ahead and highlight 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4 and click delete, and then you'll just have the quilting design. But I did that on the last one, and I think it's easier in my opinion. This doesn't fully, so see, it's a little short. It can be off just the tiniest bit. So I think it's, in my opinion, easier to just do the whole thing, all 5 steps, even though we don't want those 5 steps, but I'll show you. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this top part here where it says number 2. You can close it or open it, doesn't matter, but you want to make sure you've got all these 5 steps. And then I'm going to say Control C to copy, and then Control V for like victory to be able to paste it. All right, and so now we have 2 of them. There's the first one, and here's the second one, and it goes right over the top. So I'm just going to grab it and I'm going to bring it down, and using those same lines here, I'll put this over here so I can point it out again right here. These outside lines, the placement and tack down of the main fabric, that's these lines here. So if I click on this, making sure I've got all 5 steps, and I'm going to just line it up with that existing square from our previous quilting, okay? So very easy to line that up. Now remember, we don't want all of these 4 steps though, we only want the quilting. So I'm going to click on 2-1 through 2-4. So all I did is from the right hand side, I just click, oops, too far, sorry, 2-1, there we go, 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, and 2-4. And then I'm going to click delete on my keyboard, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this one, this 3. And I'm going to click on 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, or 3, sorry, 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, and 3-4, and then click delete. So that then all I have is the quilting design. Okay, and then we don't have to do a color sort because it's going to join them anyway because they're the same color. It won't really join, but it won't do a stop. I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and do a color sort. Why not? So if right now I have 18 colors, I'm going to go to utility color sort. And it will say this design page has been sorted, but it's not reduced. All right. And remember, I've got these tolerances. Don't forget about this. I've mentioned it on lots of videos. This is not checked, not checked, not checked, and then tolerance is 0. So then you'll get the same results that I have. So I'm going to click new view. It opens up another tab up here. And now, just like before, it's got the first 4 steps of the quilting at the beginning, and then all of the deco card stuff from last month, and then we have our quilting design for the gnomes. Easy, so easy, easy peasy. So I'm going to do, I already did, but you wouldn't want to do a file, save stitch file as, and then I have mine as deck of cards times 2 March. I've already done it. It's right there. It's the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and save over it. Excuse the sound. It'll make a loud beep saying, wait, don't save over it. Right there. Do you want to replace it? Yes, I do. It's fine. All right, and then my machine is on because I was working on a Swaddle Sweeties. Have you done those? They're so cute. So I'm going to go to Utility, Send to Solaris XP1, and it will say File Sent to Machine. If you don't have that, you just put in your USB to your computer and bring it over to your embroidery machine. So again, that's if you've already got the design grouped and color sorted and everything from last month, how to make the very quick and easy change to add in the gnome quilting, and that's the first part. But if you didn't make the join it all from last month, here's that rest of the tutorial. So I'm at my computer now, and I am going to show you in embroidery software how you can merge 2-in-1 hooping if you choose for the deck of cards. We need 4 of them total, so I'm going to go ahead and merge them together. You could try, let's see, if the final cut size is 5.5 by 5.5, you could try to get them in an extra large hoop if you want. To me, it's a little bit too much, so I'm going to do 2-in-1 hooping and then 2 again. Whatever works for you. So I'm going to open up Embrilliance Essentials. That's the embroidery software that I use. And I am on, right down here at the bottom, you can see what hoop size that you're on. I'm on my 7 by 12 hoop, which actually I think is what I'm going to try and use. If you're not on the hoop that you want, you would go up here to this preferences folder, click on that and choose the hoop that you want and say okay. All right, and then once you have that, you can click on this compass up here in the right hand corner, this button right here. And if you click on H, it will zoom into the entire hoop so that you can see all of it. Mine's already there, so it won't look any different for you, but I'm just showing you where it is if you change your hoop size. Okay, so we're going to start by bringing in the quilting design. The quilting design that we're using is called Center Heart. So I'm going to go to this Merge Stitch File button. And I think we're going to have a lot of changes to do because there's a lot of piecing on this. So let's go ahead and Cuties Table Topper. There's my bundle right there. All right, so we're looking for Center Heart. I believe it was under February. There we go. So centers and triangles February. So if we click on that, all of the designs will populate. There is a 5 by 7 one for those of you with a smaller hoop. It's right there. I'm going to scroll down to this one that is a 6 by 10. It's actually probably 6 by 6 or even smaller. But it's 5 and it's probably, anyway, let's just see. We'll click on it and we'll find out. So right here, it says 6x10 center heart. I double click on that and it goes to the center. I'm going to go ahead and keep this in the center. And now we can see down here at on the bottom right hand corner, it says it's 5.5 by 5.5. So that means the quilting design is actually 5 by 5, but with that 1/4 inch seam allowance on each side, it comes out as 5.5 by 5.5 for that step 3 and step 4, the placement and tack down of the main fabric. All right, so we're going to start by opening this plus sign, and it shows us the 5 steps of the quilting design. And as we have talked about before, if you have default 1 blue twice, see it's on step 1-1 and on step 1-3, those will merge together, and then it'll take away the whole purpose of having those placement and tack down lines. So the orange ones right here, 1-2 and 1-4, those are the tack down. So tack down of the batting and tack down or basting stitch of the main fabric. So those would join, and we don't want those to join. So it's very easy to change the colors so that they will not join together. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm clicking on this first one, 1-1, and then I click on the color and the colors come up. So it doesn't matter what color you use. I'm going to go ahead and just click on the very first one, dark aqua, and the colors on your end may come out different. It just depends on what you have as your preferred thread. As you can see here, I have Filtech Glide, as it comes up as Filtech Glide for me because I put it as my preferred thread color. So I have that. So my first one that comes up is dark aqua. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and say okay. And again, it doesn't matter what color. You just want to make sure that it is different than the 1-1 and 1-3 are different so that they don't join. So we'll keep going. So that was the first one. So the 1-2, default 2 orange. I'm going to go ahead and click on this color. And the first one that comes up for me is Blaze. And then I'll say okay. All right, then 1-3. Click on the color and you can see that here's the dark aqua that we already used. You can see it right here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the second color down, which is Marine, and say okay. And then same thing with 1-4, default 2 orange, click on that step and then click on the color. And we already used Blaze, you can see it right here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the second one down, which is Oriole, and say okay. And then 1-5 is our quilting design. I'm going to go ahead and change that color as well, just in case there is a turquoise later in the deck of cards design. So I'm going to click on the color. First one that comes up for me is Sprout, and I'm going to say okay. All right, so that quilting design is all done. I left it in the middle so that we can bring in the deck of cards design, the embroidery part of the design or the piecing part of the design, and we can have it merge and center. So I'm going to go ahead and go here to this merge stitch file, and now instead of the quilting design, I'm going to go ahead and close up the quilting design so that I can see. And here's my embroidery files right here. So I've only saved the PEZ files because that's what I use for my machines, but you'll see all the different formats and you would just click on the format that you use for your machine. So click on that, and then I'm going to scroll down here, and here is the deck of cards right here, 5x7 deck of cards. And I'm going to go ahead and double click on that, and it will go directly to the center. Now if I click on this, you can see from the black squares that it is perfectly centered. That's why I left the design in the center that way. That made it easy to just not have to move it around and get it centered just right. Now look at all these default blues and oranges and red, dark reds. So lots and lots of default blues and oranges here. So we're going to go ahead and change all of those so that they don't join together. We want each of these to be stops so that we can lay down our fabric, and we don't want them to join. So I'm going to very quickly just run through the design and change the colors. So we have to keep in mind we already used dark aqua and marine, and we don't want those to join with our quilting. So we're going to move on to the third one, which is Hawaiian blue. All right, for me it's Hawaiian blue. Again, for you it could be completely different. So click on the color and say okay. And then same thing for orange, this 2-2 default 2 orange. Click on the color, and we already used Blaze and Oriole. We can see them up above, but I remember if you wanted to look above, you could just scroll up here. Well, not while this window's open. Sorry, I'll show you in a minute. All right, so that we already used Blaze and Oriole, so I'm going to click on the next one, which for me is Coral, and say okay. All right, so if you don't remember the colors you use, you can always use this to scroll. You can also use the mouse scroll button. Either way, you can see the colors that you used in case you've forgotten. All right, so now back to the blue and the oranges. So I'm going to click on this number 2, 3 right here, click on the color, and then we've already used, the last one was Hawaiian blue right there. So the next one would, for me, would be Mercury. Say okay. And then default to orange, click on the color. We've already used Coral was our last one. So we're not, the next one for me is Lava. Say okay. All right, and I want to point out, I'll show you when we get to the color sort, it's very important that you have your settings the same as mine for this to work the same way it will on mine. So I will remember to point that out or do a screenshot so that you can see the settings that I have. All right, so now we are on 2.4 we just finished, so we're going to move to 2.5. Now this is, this is the color, the satin stitching or decorative stitching around it, and there are more dark reds. So let's see, do we change the colors? We don't, so we could have that all join after we're done. I have to think about that. So it looks like the color is going to be the same on each of these. So we could have all of those join and it will do them together. I think I'll leave this for now. I have to think about this one and make sure we would want them. That's the order they're in. So yeah, I think maybe not. So it is going to be all the same color, but it looks like we do all of the placement for one, and then it does the decorative outline, and then all of the placement and a decorative outline. So if we join it right now, it would do it on, so like for instance, it would do this one and then it would start on this one, and yet we haven't done the placements yet. So we actually need to change these colors. Or move them to the end. I'm going to go ahead and change the color. It will actually be the same thread color that we will use, but we just don't want it to join. Does that make sense? Because if we have this satin stitch here and then it starts in on the next one and we haven't placed these fabrics down, then we've made a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and just change the color. That will be very easy. So the first one that comes up for me is Ruby. I'm going to say okay. All right, and then here we're back to the default blues and oranges. Our last one looks like was Mercury. All right, so I'm going to click on the color and we want to go past Mercury, which is tropical for me. All right, and then 2.7, click on 2.7, then click on the color. The last one that we used was Lava, so we're going to go past Lava and we're going to go to Strawberry Blonde. And whenever I click on Strawberry Blonde, I always think about my son because he has a strawberry blonde beard. When he grows a beard, it's strawberry blonde. Pretty fun. All right, and then this 2.8 dark red, I'm going to use a different one than Ruby just to make sure that it does not join. All right, so I'm going to click on the color. We already used Ruby, and now we're going to use Purple Rose and say okay. And then another default blue, click on that. The last one that we used was Tropical, so if I click on the color and I'm going to scroll down to the next one, which is Robin Egg, and say okay. And then default to orange, this is 2.10. The last one that we used was Strawberry Blonde. So I'm going to click on the color and go past Strawberry Blonde to Autumn and say okay. And then here's that dark red, and I'm going to click on the color, and we already used Purple Rose, so the next one is Mauve, and say okay. All right, now this is probably the overall. Oh, it's the last. All right, so it's kind of funny that this was that first one. If I scroll up here, I can see that I did the placement stitch and the tack down stitch of this, and yet it doesn't jump into the decorative stitch like it does on the others. It's down here at the bottom. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and click on the color and change it. The first one that comes up is tomato. All right, because that's a default 4. And say OK. All right, so these are all changed. This is all ready for us. So I am going to go ahead and I am going to group these. So to do that, I can either click and drag to make sure that I'm getting both the first one, which is the quilting, and the second one, which is the embroidery applique design. I can do it that way to make sure I've got both designs. Or the other way I can do it is I can close these little minus signs and I can drag from the bottom here up. Either way, you just want to make sure that you're getting the quilting design and the applique design together, and then we go to Edit Group. All right, and that just makes it so that we can move this design without having to worry about it like grabbing just the quilting design or just the applique design. These are grouped together. All right, so that one is done and it's great. I'm going to go ahead now and hit Control C. I have both the quilting design and the applique design together. So I'm going to hit Control C to copy and then Control V. I'm doing this on my keyboard and you can see it made another one. It goes right on top of the first one, so you can't see it at all, but you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4 now instead of 2 designs. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the stitching and bring it all the way down. You can also use your arrow buttons on your keyboard if you prefer, whatever works for you. But this is grouped as well, so that's perfect, so we don't have to worry about it. Now notice there's not a ton of room in between. So if you feel like this is going to be too close, you could use a larger hoop. A 9x14 hoop would work just fine. Or if you feel comfortable with this, I'm using a 7x12 currently. A 9x14 would work as well. Either one, whatever you feel comfortable with. There's not a whole lot of room, which is really fine, except that remember this is a piecing project, so there will be those long parts that hang over. So you will have to wash it a little bit, or again, use a 9x14. That would work perfectly fine. If you are going to use a larger hoop like a 9x14, you want to do it now before you group, because once you group it, then it's all, or not just the grouping, but the color sorting. Because once you do the color sort, it's all one design, and then you won't be able to move the things around. The 2 or 4 designs around. So you want to do that now if you decide to use a larger hoop. All right, so we have 4 designs. I'm just closing up the window so I can see I've got all 4 designs here. Now one thing that I really like to do, and I think it makes it a lot easier when you are doing a color sort, is I want to make sure that my quilting designs are together and my applique designs are together. So I'm going to go ahead and either one, you could click this one and move up, or you could click this one and move down, either way. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on it and say move later. But this little part right after here, move later, and you can see it just moved it down. So now I have the first quilting together, the second quilting, and then I have the first applique design and the second applique design. And that just makes it a lot easier. Then you're doing your batting all at once, you're doing the appliques together. So that makes it a lot easier. So we have one thing that we want to do, as I mentioned earlier in the video. It's very important that we move our the last part. So if I open up these 5 steps here, this last part, this quilting design here, we want that on top of the design. So right now it would not be on top because you can see that we've got the applique pieces here, so they're not even there yet. We want this quilting design to be on top. There's a really easy way to do that, and so I'm going to show you. So right now we're going to go ahead and just leave this as is. We've got our 4 designs, our two quilting designs and our 2 applique designs, and we have them centered in the hoop in the way that we want them. And so we're going to go ahead and do a color sort. So right now we have four steps or 4 designs. There's 34 steps. You can see down here on the right hand bottom corner that there are 34 steps total. So if we go to Utility Color Sort right there, and it reduced it by 17 color changes. So click New View. So right now we have Untitled 1. It's going to open another tab. So I'm going to go to New View. and we've got our second tab now, and see if I click on this first tab, see there's the 4 different designs. On the second tab, they're all grouped together into one design. So if I open this up, I can check everything and make sure it did it the right way. And we've got the first one is the batting. This is the placement for the batting. The second one is the tack down of the batting. The third one is the placement of the main fabric. The fourth one is the tack down or the basting stitch of the main fabric. And this last one of the quilting design, which now is all grouped together, but this last one, number 5, is our quilting design. You can see that's the one we're going to want to move, but I'm going to go ahead and keep looking to make sure that these are all correct first. All right, so then we have the placement of our first applique piece and our tack down of our applique, and then we have that placement of the second fabric and the tack down of the second fabric, and then we have that first satin stitch or decorative stitch, and then the third placement of the applique and the tack down of that applique and the stitching for that. And then this last one, I believe this is the last one, the fourth one, placement of the applique and the tack down of the applique, and then that satin stitch or decorative stitch around that one, and then the decorative stitch of that first one that we did. So that all worked out exactly perfectly, except don't forget, we want to move this quilting design. So it's 1-5 right here. Oh, and I forgot to show you on that color sort. I'll show you in just a second. Sorry about that. All right, so 1-5, this one, we want this at the very end of all of that. So if we go ahead and click on that and say move last, it's easy to do now that it's all grouped as one design. So just before I do that, let me just show you again. See, everything is all together in one. If we had tried to do it before they were all color sorted, then it's really hard to move it because it will just go to the end of that part of the design. So since they're all together in one design now, it's super easy. So again, 1-5 right here, I'm going to right click on it and say move last. And then look at it's down there at the very bottom. Perfect. That was so easy. So after we run through those first 4 steps of the quilting, and we'll jump right into the applique, and at the end of all of that, then we will do our quilting. So that's perfect. So we've already done our color sort. Everything is all done, but I forgot to show you that one bit. So I'm going to go ahead and go back. So right now we have 17 color steps. That's so much easier than 34, right? That'll take so much less time. So before we do a file save, I just want to show you real quick. If we do that utility color sort, I want to make sure and just point this out real quick. It's not going to change anything for us because we already did it. But this is the part I want to point out. This is your preferences or your settings on your color sorting. Notice I do not have RHS pre-sort clicked on. I don't have the force applique position or material clicked. And I have the tolerance at 0. So you need, if you want to do this that I'm doing with changing the colors and color sorting them and grouping them and all of that, you want these same settings. I had someone a couple projects back say that they went through my entire tutorial and did everything I did, and then it did not come out the same way. It was all wonky. And we figured out it was because her settings on here were completely different than what I have. So just make sure you have these same settings. Again, this is not checked, not checked, not checked, and then tolerance is at 0, and then it will work out exactly right for you. All right, so that is what I wanted to mention about that. Now we've already done all of our grouping and color sorting, so we're going to go to File, Save Stitch File As right here. Save Stitch File As. There's also a working file and a stitch and working. I don't bother with this unless I'm using fonts. If I have added wording or personalization in there and I'm using a BX font, then you want to save a working file so that you can easily make changes to your fonts and your wording. But since we're not doing that, a stitch file is the one that will make a PES file for my machine or whatever file that you need for your machine. So I'm going to go to Save Stitch File As, and then I'm going to put it in my folder that has my Cuties. So right now it's popping up as my red, white, and bloom because that's what I worked on last. So I'm going to go to desktop, and then here is my table toppers right there. So if I click on that, I can go to the embroidery files, and all I'm doing is it's asking me, well, where do you want to save this? So I'm just telling it I want to save it in my Cuties folder so that I can find it easily. You could save it to your desktop, whatever works for you. All right, so I am going to say deck of cards times 2. There's 2 of them. You could say double, whatever works for you, that you'll remember that this is your deck of cards and you've got that 2 of them on this file. Or if you have 4 or whatever you're doing, I'm not brave enough to do 4 in one. Hooping, on piecing projects, you need a little bit more room. So I'm going to go ahead and just stay with 2, and I'll do 2 hooping. So I'm going to say save. All right, and it's all set. I don't have my machine on. If my machine was on, I could go to, I think it's utility, send to Solaris. If you have one of the Wi-Fi ready machines, I don't know if it's only Brother and Baby Lock that Embrilliance does this, but it's really convenient. If you don't have that, then you would just put your USB stick into your computer and save it to your USB drive and bring it over to your embroidery machine. So we're all set. We've got these duplicated and ready to go. And just a quick reminder, if you are in the market for embroidery software, please use my link. It is embrilliance.com/jam affiliate/Cristin creates. I can spell my name, honest I can. All right, and then you just go to that link and Embrilliance comes up. There we go. There's Embrilliance. And Essentials is the one I'm using. Embrilliance Essentials. It's right here on this left bar. It's also in this store at the top. Either one, it goes to the same place. Click on that, and there is Embrilliance Essentials right there. And it's on sale right now for a few more days at $139. So a $15 savings or $16 savings. And I use it on a lot of our project. I use this for a lot of our project, and so I will show you step by step everything that I'm doing, and it makes it really easy. And if you use my link, it gives a little kickback to me and helps support my family. So. gnome shirt today. This is a little bit Christmassy one because it's got a gingerbread cookie, but I love gingerbread all year round, so I'm wearing this for our design today. It's from an Etsy shop, and I will add a link underneath this video. I think that this same place they've got St. Patrick's Day one. If I have time, I will make that. I think it's so cute, really cute designs in that site. So I will add all the information as always underneath the video. If you click on that see more information, you click on that, and then there's just all the information of upcoming projects and what shirt I'm wearing for that day, because I always get those questions, so I try to include it on every video, and the thread colors and all the information underneath the video. And share how you're doing with your goal. I really want to hear about it. I got a message from a friend that said she did 3-mile walk today. That's awesome. I love hearing about it. It's cold here. It's way too cold to go for an outdoor ride or walk or anything, but it's a great day to stay inside and sew.